It's March 22 and I'm off on another day of adventures. Right now I'm at Fairbank's historic town. It's an old mining town that they've preserved. So let's see where it goes. I decided I would do the San Pedro trail at this historic town site. It's 3.7 miles long and it's supposed to be interesting different spots along the way. So it's quite an adventure coming up. I really enjoy history, so I like stopping at all these places. Plus, this is supposed to be a birder's paradise here. Fairbank was an Old West railroad town founded in 1882 during the Tombstone silver boom. From 1882 to 1903, Fairbank was Tombstone's train depot. The town had an elegant hotel with a restaurant and bar, a post office, several businesses, and a school. Chinese farmers raised crops along the river. The famous and infamous historical characters of Tombstone passed through Fairbank. Manufactured goods bound for Tombstone came here first. Concentrated ore and cattle were shipped out. We'll go see where some historical people have been buried. This cemetery is pretty much in a shambles, I would say. All those green trees, you can sure tell where there's a river, hey? It's pretty cool. Well, there's no grave markers or anything. But it's kind of neat that they're buried on a knoll. On the great resurrection morning, they'll be jumping up. Somebody left some money on here. What? That is funny. I sure wish I knew why there was so many dead trees in Arizona, or at least in this southern part of Arizona. All my hikes have been dead trees. In my previous video, I promised that I would be telling how God has been leading me. So I will do that in this video. I'll share with you some stuff. If you have been following me on my journeys this past year, you will have noticed that I've talked a lot about having trust in God and having mustard seed faith and not to worry. Well, I made those videos for myself, really. Give myself pep talks. Because exactly a year ago this month, I decided that I had had enough with my job. And I went on a self-proclaimed sabbatical. And we took in my aunt and that helped with the income, but I was always stressed about what my income source would be. Financial stress is a real burden, I've discovered, not having a steady source of income. But after my sabbatical was up, I realized that I just could not go back to work. It was just too stressful and unsupportive of an environment. And I didn't want to do that anymore. Life is too short to be so stressed at work. Well, to be frank with you and to let you in on a trade secret, nursing is made up mostly of females. And at my hospital, it was about 99% female. And honestly, women can be very catty and downright mean to each other. And I just didn't have the heart for that anymore. I was just not happy there. So after a while in August, I bit the bullet and I gave my notice. And I wrote my letter of resignation. And it was like a huge burden was lifted from my heart. But then, yeah, the struggles of where the money comes in next. God, Where are you? Dear Lord God Almighty, can you please help me out of this pickle? Because I feel like he had been leading me to quit. I wouldn't do a stupid thing like that normally. Anyway, that's that part. Saskatoon grasslands historically covered millions of acres in the southwest and now cover less than 5% of the original area. Fire is essential to the growth and vigor of native grasses and reduces invasion by shrubs. It restores nutrients to the soil and reduces competitors. Oh, this explains these trees. They've been burned. However, it says large trees that are burned by fire often become prime habitat for owls, woodpeckers, and other cavity nesting animals. All right, but it's still kind of sad. I was doing my furniture painting, but that goes in spurts, it seems. I have good months and bad months where nothing sells, so that wasn't reliable. And I was also doing my blood draws in people's homes, and that gave me enough money for like fuel, but still not enough to pay the mortgage. So now can you understand my videos of distress and calling out to God? Well, 4 months after I gave my resignation, I got a letter in the mail that has totally changed my life. Well, it's changed my outlook on life. And I will share that with you in my next video. Now, I forgot to mention that I really loved nursing. I enjoyed the patient care, and I especially loved my career in the emergency room. I loved being organized and fast and just multitasking. It was just a really stimulating environment, and I really enjoyed that a lot. So yeah, my heart is broken that career is over with now, but it's my own choosing. So there's good and bad. Good and bad. Sanity wise, it's good. It's good that I'm out. This rock wall was once the back wall of a silver processing stamp mill. This was one of 7 mills along the San Pedro that supported the 50 mines in the Tombstone Hills. The ore-bearing rock from the mines was loaded onto wagons and hauled to the mills by long mule teams. Most stamp mills were built against hills to use the force of gravity. Power was generated by falling water or steam. The stamps were metal rods that rose and fell continuously until the ore was broken into powder. Water turned the mixture into a paste. Then mercury, also called quicksilver, was added, adhering to the silver. The mixture was heated, causing the mercury to vaporize, leaving the extracted silver. Stamp mills usually had 10 or 15 stamps going at once, falling about 100 times per minute. The mills operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the deafening noise could be heard for miles. Except for the water power, all work was done by men or animals. It's an open mine shaft. You know, looking back, I gave my notice long before this coronavirus eruption happened. And maybe this is a selfish thought, but maybe God got me out of nursing for this very reason. Maybe I'm not supposed to be taking care of very sick patients. Anyway, I feel kind of bad not being on the battlefront, but also very, very grateful to God that I am not on the battlefront. So maybe this was the reason after all that he got me out of nursing. I don't know. I'm just very, very thankful and grateful, and just sharing this with you, sharing some of my personal life with you. Okay, well, this is nice. Very muddy river though. While the silver mines were near Tombstone, the mills that processed the silver ore were along the San Pedro River. Why go to all the trouble to haul heavy wagon loads of ore all that way? Water. It took enormous amounts of water to run the silver stamp mills and quench the thirst of mules and men. The water of the San Pedro River was the essential ingredient to mining that Tombstone lacked. Until water was struck during underground mining, all of the ore was processed near the most reliable water source, the San Pedro River. Nearby towns dried up once the ore processing mill was built in Tombstone. The townspeople knew the value of a good water supply. The San Pedro River provided water for household use, gardens, farming, and recreation. Although water was certainly essential for the life of a town, there are many ghost towns along the river. Mining brought the people, and when the industry collapsed, so did the towns. What Fairbank had that the others didn't was its key location as a transportation hub. Besides the railroad, State Highway 82 was built right through it in 1936, ensuring its survival as a roadside stop miles from anywhere else. Until the 1970s, people were able to stop in the store for a soda and a snack. This is a very interesting tree with so many trunks. There's a 27-mile-long San Pedro trail that might be fun to go on a bike sometime. However, the healing hiker rating for this San Pedro loop trail is a 3 out of 5. And I'm being very generous with that. It's for all you birders and history buffs that I give it halfway decent marks. Otherwise, it's a pretty mundane trail. There is no wildflowers, no cactus. It's honestly the worst trail I've been on so far in Arizona. But I'm glad I can say I was on it. I just would never come back. It is pretty interesting to think of thousands of people hustling and bustling around here. It's hard to imagine. Yeah, I like history a lot. So do you think I went through a midlife crisis? Is it possible for women to go through midlife crises? Leave a comment if you have ever had to change your career and how that was for you and what you did, what your work story is. I would be so interested to hear. Have you ever experienced burnout? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. And you will want to stay tuned for it because you will see how God has been leading me. All it took was a brief blaze of gunfire more than 125 years ago to seal the fate of this former silver mining boomtown. On these very streets outside a livery stable known as the OK Corral, Wyatt Earp, his brothers Virgil and Morgan, and their friend Doc Holliday took on the outlaws Ike Clanton and Frank and Tom McClory on October 26, 1881. Today, Tombstone, the town too tough to die, is one of America's most popular attractions. Tombstone was named by Ed Shufflin, a silver prospector who ventured into this area at a time when the region's Apaches were fighting to preserve their way of life. Shufflin was warned that all he would find here was his own tombstone, so when he discovered silver, he named the strike Tombstone. Within a few years, the town of Tombstone was larger than San Francisco, and between 1880 and 1887, an estimated $37 million worth of silver was mined here. Such wealth created a sturdy little town, and as the Cochise County seat of the time, Tombstone boasted several imposing buildings, including the county courthouse, which is now a state park. After a fire in 1882 destroyed much of the town, new and grander buildings were erected. In 1887, however, underground water flooded the silver mines, and despite attempts to pump the water out, the mines were never reopened. With the demise of the mines, the boom came to an end, and the population rapidly dwindled. Today, Tombstone's historic district consists of some original late 19th century buildings and newer structures built in the same style. This is my kind of bench.